And we're live. Cool. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's basement session. This is basement session number 8. Yep, brilliant. And I'm very pleased to have as my guest this week my good friend Brendan Way. Brendan, how you doing?
I'm just really excited. I've watched every show.
Hardcore fan. So so this week's a little bit different. Brendan's going to be doing spoken word for us. So we're having a little bit of a break from music. As I said in the original show, the inspiration for the basement session was really Wayne's World. And Wayne's World, they'd have musicians, they'd have other kind of artists. I think in the film they had like a guy who like had a special Hoover. No, it wasn't a Hoover. It was called the Suck Cut. Do you remember that?
It gave you a haircut.
Yeah. It gave you a haircut. It didn't work at all. No. And so, So the idea is that we can just have anybody on, and we'll just have a laugh, and it's generally aimed around kind of performance, but yeah, it's fun. It's great. So this week I'm launching my new website. So I'll be talking a little bit about that later on. But really, the show's about Brendan, and it's about spoken word. So I'll give you a little bit of background on Brendan and myself. So I met Brendan in 2011. It was at the start of our second year of university. And I could just see you'd be like, is that right? Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So long ago.
It was so long ago. It's 3 years. 3 years.
Yeah, a week from like now-ish, it was our graduation. It's crazy.
So obviously from that statement you can see that me and Brendan, we met at university. So we run a theatre company together called the Depth Charge Theatre Company, later called Splendid Fred, and we did a lot of theatre stuff together. Just became good friends kind of through that, and we did creative writing together, and so we tried to write a sitcom script together. It didn't really go great, did it?
No, it was My Name Is Earl, but He's Dying. Yeah, Grouch. Yeah, it wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. It was it was weird. It was weird, and so we did that, and Brendan lived in Winchester a little while longer after finishing university, and then moved to London, and whereabouts in London is it precisely? You live near Wembley, don't you?
Preston Road, which is the station. But when I told people I lived at Preston Road, they thought I was being oddly specific. Like, where do you live? Number 22, Morehouse Lane. No, that's the tube stop. Preston Road.
And so, Brendan, you're now working for a charity. It's called...
It's a movement.
It's a movement. Sorry. It's a movement. A movement, people.
Yeah, they're raising awareness, not money. Check 1 2. Hashtag feeling nuts. It's about getting men to check their testicles, and I actually have a testicle piece for you later.
Fantastic. Well, I'm really looking forward to that. So, so that's what's going to happen. So, usually we have an artist play 5 songs. So instead, Brendan's going to read us 5 pieces, or I should say, perform us 5 pieces. Brendan is a fantastic writer. We spent a lot of our time at university going to Starbucks and writing there, and Brendan never ceased to make me laugh, and really has influenced me a lot in my writing and just as a person. And so very excited to have him perform today. We've also got our friend Millie, who's hiding in the corner over there. She's watching over us. She didn't want to be on the camera, but I'll try and drag her on later. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to have Brendan perform his first piece for you. And what's the title of this piece?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Brilliant. Why did the chicken cross the road? That question will forever burn in the back of many a chicken's mind. Yeah. Anyway, at home, if you have your hands free, please give it up for Mr. Brendan Way. Woohoo! Yeah.
I like that you said Millie doesn't want to be here. Like we forced her to be the audience. Why did the chicken cross the road? She knew nobody in that particular area, and there's little of interest there except a misspelled stop sign. Whatever the reason, she's on the other side now. Her funeral's next Tuesday. So far, there's nothing concrete to suggest there was any foul play. But still, there's no harm in making inquiries. I knock on the door of a particularly well-kept den. It's opened by a slim fox dressed in a suit. This is Freddy. Ever since gaining a reputation for clever schemes to outsmart farmers, one of which saw him become the subject of a book by Roald Dahl, Freddy has always been associated with chickens. Consequently, he seemed as good as any creature with which to discuss the recent tragedy. "What brings you here, Inspector?" Freddy asks in a low, raspy voice as he passes me a cup of tea, no doubt made with milk stolen from the residents of the nearby pasture. "Sad business, I'm afraid, Freddy. Mrs. Cluck was recently involved in a hit and run. Unfortunately, the outcome wasn't good." "Oh no," Freddy frowns. "Any idea why it happened?" "None at all. In fact, we're not even sure why she was anywhere near that particular road at all." "Oh?" Freddy raises an eyebrow. "Yes, it seems that nobody can ever recall her having cause to go to Humpty Drive before. Can you think of a reason why a middle-aged mother of 24 would be down that part of town?" "Why are you asking me? I've never met her." "No, but you've had dealings with chicks in the past." "Ah, but in that case she was probably taking her eggs for a walk." "I'm sorry?" "Her eggs. She carries them around with her when she's not sitting on them. Always puts them in one basket despite frequent warnings not to." I put down my cup and look across the table at my host. "Freddy?" "Yes, Inspector." "I thought you'd said you'd never met her." Suddenly he starts to look a little uncomfortable. "Oh, well, when I said she brings her eggs with her, I was generalizing. Most, no, all chickens do that. It's a thing they do. Gotta look after the kids. Wouldn't want them to come to any harm or be given to a fox in lieu of protection money." "Exactly. Wait, no. Freddy Fox, I put it to you that Miss Cluck was a victim of your extortion racket. She paid you in eggs because she couldn't afford to give you cash. When her laying days were over, she had nothing more you wanted, so she skipped town. You figured she'd do a runner and tell the police about what you'd done. Fearing her evidence would land you in prison, you found she was heading to freedom via Humpty Drive, where you promptly ran her over. With her out of the way, your secret was safe." Freddy starts to clap slowly in a sarcastic manner. "That all sounds very good, Inspector, but where's the proof that anything you've said is even remotely true?" "Well, there might be CCTV footage of you behind the wheel when she was bumped off. We could also check your engine to see if there's any feathers caught inside. Of course, if those don't materialize, I suppose there's that other piece of damning evidence." "Oh yeah? And what's that?" "Her basket is right behind you." His face falls. I continue. "You're under arrest for murder and extortion. You have the right to remain silent." To think I heard Fox was meant to be clever. "Whatever you say now may be used against you later in a court of law. This really has been the weirdest case of my career. Honestly, a chicken crossing the road? It's no joke."
Brilliant. You're actually the first guest that's ever taken the mic out and handed it to me. So, bonus points for you.
Happy to please.
Brilliant, cool. So, come to the interview portion. So, I always love this bit. It's always really feeling. I asked similar questions each week, every couple of weeks. So, I'll ask on Facebook for more suggestions. So, on one of the basement session posts, just post one of your questions that you got, and we'll ask it next week. Or if you're on Twitter, of course, Twitter. Can't forget Twitter, can you? Are you more of a Facebook or a Twitter fan?
I like both. Twitter's great because of all the comedians who are on their board on their train journey. So I love Twitter.
So Brendan, one thing I just always notice about you online is you're just always constantly posting online. So are you a big advocate of like social media and kind of getting your work out there that way, or is it just something you just really enjoy doing, or both?
It's a bit of both, but the job I'm in now has taught me it's really important to keep producing content. So now I do think of it as a business almost. Yeah, joke at 12 when people are checking at lunch, joke at 6 when people are coming home from work, and then a joke at 9 because, well, when I was at uni, I stopped work at 9 and then go on Twitter. So it's good. It keeps me productive. It keeps me writing. You've got to write every day. That's what I hear. And podcasts. I've got to advertise a podcast. I can't really go to a gig and say, listen to my podcast. But online, I can do it all the time.
That's true. So, yes, Brendan does a podcast. It's weekly, isn't it?
More or less, yeah.
More or less weekly. and yeah, it's just really cool. It's very topical, isn't it?
It's a topical show. It's based on the news. Again, I can keep writing because new stuff keeps happening. You look at the TV, people are dying, people are getting into power. There's new material everywhere.
There you go. It's like South Park, but more factual.
Yes, never that comparison, but yes, and somebody dies each week. Yes, it's exactly like South Park.
Exactly, brilliant. So, those were the unofficial questions. We'll get on to the real questions now. So, do you have my keys?
No, I have the key to your heart, though.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Can I have it back?
Yeah. Oh no, left it over there.
Okay, I'll get it after the show. Cool. So, question number 2. If you could go back in time, where would you go and what would you do?
Ooh.
You can take the microphone from me, by the way.
No, I like this. It's like a proper interview. Probably say hi to Shakespeare, see whether he really wrote his play, see whether he's gay, see whether he's black, see whether he's Queen Elizabeth I. Seriously, our uni library was like structured like Shakespeare the feminist, Shakespeare's gay, Shakespeare's black, Shakespeare's John Bacon or whatever his name was.
John Bacon?
Yeah, Bacon was some sort of scientist. I don't think it's John, but Bacon is definitely his surname. Actually, I think he died like in winter, so I think he became Frozen Bacon. Francis Bacon. Yeah, Francis Bacon. Look him up. Wikipedia.
Okay, I'm always fascinated with surnames. I bring it up nearly every week. It's kind of so the name Bacon, the second name Bacon, it's like usually like my surname Freeman is the name they'd give to slaves when they were liberated. So if you've seen the film Django Unchained, when Django is liberated by Christoph Waltz's character at the beginning, he then becomes Django Freeman and is referred to as Django Freeman throughout the film.
His surname isn't Unchained.
No.
Might have misunderstood the film.
Okay, right. So that's what we're going to be watching after this, and I'll be educating Brendan on cinema. But yeah, so surnames, the name Bacon. So, like, was he a butcher? Like the original Bacon, was he a butcher? Did he just really like bacon, or like, you know, was there some sort of was it French, like a bacon, you know, and it got mispronounced, or what do you think?
I like to think that it's Bacon. I like that pronunciation. I don't know. My family name, my granddad was adopted, so it could actually be Badger. I'm not sure by that logic that I am descended from badgers. But my surname is Way, which is great because Brendan Way is a street in Glasgow that you can visit, and I will go there. Motherwell, Glasgow. I'm on Google Maps. Brendan Way is on the map.
That's really cool. So Millie, is your name on? Is it on Google? Emily Cross, because Cross is a kind of that could be a name for like a road or an intersection, couldn't it? You think it is? That's where your name comes from.
It's someone who lived on a crossroads. It's very exciting.
Ah, there we go. The lady speaketh. I tricked her. Brilliant, cool. So we now move on to the challenge portion of the show. So each week we set 3 challenges, some of which are set by the previous week's guests and some of which are suggested by me. So Brandon, I'll let you pick 1, 2 or 3. So you pick the number, and whichever number you get is whatever challenge you get. You like number 3? Okay, brilliant. Okay, this is going to be a good one. So, obviously, Brendan's come on to tell stories today. I thought it'd be quite interesting if you told a story using sound. So that is why here I have a stylophone. So, yeah, so you might have seen this instrument before. I don't know if you have. So stylophones are kind of a kid's instrument, but it kind of got picked. I think it was around kind of in the 80s, late 70s, and it got picked up by artists like David Bowie, and you know it's still used in popular music today. and it's a bit of an odd instrument. They call it the pocket organ, and it makes a very bizarre sound. And I've been looking for an excuse to get a stylophone into one of the shows, and now Brendan is going to. Here's the challenge. Before you get going with that, the idea of this.
Just seeing what noise it makes.
Okay, so your challenge is you need to tell one of your stories using the sound of the stylophone.
Okay.
So you're translating your story from words into sound.
So I don't actually say anything.
No, you say nothing. It's all everything you want to verbally communicate. You know, every inflection on a word has to be used using this instrument that you've only just discovered. So and so you can change the sounds using this bit here. So you can change however you want, and underneath there's a little toggle, so you can change the tone. So yeah, you need to twist it while you're playing it. So you're about to get a lot of that. So yes, I'd hold it up against the microphone when it's set up, but you have to announce the title of the story using the stylophone as well. Okay, brilliant. Well, this is Brendan Way performing his stylophone story.
I really hope this becomes a weekly challenge. That was the title. I think that's the end.
Hey!
You could tell that was a story about Pac-Man, right? I genuinely was trying to convey the story of Pac-Man. That's one of my pieces.
Brilliant. Thank you, Brendan. That was so that was a story about Pac-Man. Yeah, the stylophone is an interesting instrument. How did you find that experience? Is that something you think you'll revisit in future podcasts?
Certainly, I do need a theme tune. As it happens, it's just me saying, "Hello, I'm Brendan Way," and then at the top, I could do with credit music. And I did once sample some of your stuff to plug you. I used the intro to one of your songs and spoke over it.
What one?
The Banana Song?
Also known as A New Spark. Well, known as A New Spark, also known as the Banana Song.
Yeah, you didn't call it the Banana Song, your fans did.
Yeah, misinterpreted. Brilliant, cool. So a couple more questions. Cool. So what have we got?
Hear the noise his phone makes whenever he lights it up for a question. It's like
Yeah, and I hope the mic picked up the stylophone. Cool. So what's the dream, man?
I just want to be comfortable. I don't mean literally like.
Right now, you're not comfortable.
No, it's quite comfy. It's a sofa. They're always comfy.
Okay, so you've achieved the dream right now, or?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just stay here each week because I'm quite comfortable. No. I literally not literally. I want to be. I don't. Having a job or fame or money doesn't really drive me. I just want to, still do my podcast, still do spoken word gigs a few days a week, and have enough money to live. Isn't that what we should really aim for?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need a pool. I don't need a big house.
I need a curling rink.
Any reason why?
I just love the idea of curling. You know, there's something about those weights, and you throw it on the ice, and you go along with your brooms and your brushes, and you go, get on.
Do you consider it a manly sport?
I consider it a unisex sport, and I think it's a sport that we can all take part in, and you know, you can have men against women, you know, and there's no sort of barriers, because I think, I don't know, like, who has better broom skills, a man or a woman? Who knows? You know, it's one of these unknown quantities.
I think to answer would be sexist.
I think to answer would be sexist.
To be fair, most people don't spend their broom days pushing weights.
That's true. Yeah.
That's not much of a feed line, that's true. It's like, what? I can only agree with you. It's like, that doesn't further conversation.
So if you agree with something, you can just go, agreement.
I will from now on.
Okay.
Agreement.
Cool. So we move on to the next challenge. So, cool. So you got 2 more challenges. So you picked number 3 before. So it's between 2 and 1. Which would you like? Number 1? Brilliant. Okay, so last time you were performing a story of yours using sound. This time you are going to perform a story off the top of your head. Make one up as you go along, but it has to have a logical beginning, middle and end. And it can be as long as you want it to be.
Do I have to include any elements of your choice?
Yes. Okay. So you need 5 elements. So the story must include. I feel like I'm doing the Lego Cage game right now. That's something for later. Very big in joke. Right. Okay. So you have a pack of flying saucers, which are those sweets. So you got a pack of flying saucers. You have a broom. You have a stylophone. You can write these down as you're going along. If you don't have a pen, and you call yourself a writer. Okay, so you have a stylophone, you have a broom, you have a pack of flying saucers, you have the lid to a pot of paint, and you have an encyclopedia for the letter Z. Okay? Yeah. Cool. So, that's what we're going to go with. A story must include those 5 things. And go.
This is actually one of my favourite stories to tell. I mean, I do actually have a story involving these elements. So I was cleaning out my garage one day. That's too American, garage. I don't know why I'm commenting, like the storyteller's just talking to the audience. You don't have a lot of rubbish on your patio. Right. I was cleaning out my loft, so naturally I had a broom. But I was bored, because cleaning is so boring. I mean, I don't have an iron at home. Or a broom. Or a house. I just live in the street. Spoken word doesn't make a lot of money. So basically I'm cleaning a stranger's house with their broom. And they had a lot of random stuff. I mean, an encyclopedia with the letter Z. A stylophone, which really hasn't been popular since the 70s, and I'm surprised Scott's heard of it. Are there any famous songs of stylophones?
The one you performed about 5 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, that. I'm sure history will forget that one. At least I'm hoping I forget it. The styrofoam, yeah, and then I needed a snack, because cleaning is not only boring, but it's hard work, and I was hungry, so I got some flying saucers. But I ripped open the pack and they just fell on the floor. So there was more cleaning. So I started sweeping them away. I was like, you know, if these things were bigger, and it was on ice, this would make a really good sport. Just brushing them. brushing them away. What's the other option? A paint lid. Okay. So I was like, that's good. But because I never wrote the idea down, somebody else spilt a packet of flying saucers like weeks later and ripped it off, and now it's an Olympic sport. But only the Winter Olympics, so it doesn't really count. Nobody watches those. Well, I don't. Don't have a TV. Or a house, as I've said. So yeah, I got back to cleaning. You know, they're paying me pennies. Well, they're paying me in flying saucers. Yeah, I guess you could use them as currency in some weird island. And so I was cleaning, and I spilled over the paint. You can't clean up paint with a brush, so I just had to use the hose or my body because it's quite absorbent. I mean, this is painted on. This isn't a shirt. And yeah, just feel it. Please don't. And so yeah, I spilled the paint, and I grabbed the lid and just playing with it, just because I was like, right, where do I put this? Do I put it in the bin? Do I put it on? Is the paint ruined? Does paint spoil? Is it like cheese? Chocolate apparently spoils, but I always eat it even if it's blue. So I had the paint lid, and I accidentally dropped it, and I was like, actually that was quite fun. If I aim that, like give it a direction, that would be a really, really good toy, and that's how I invented the frisbee. And met your mother. And I told that story in less than 9 years, so I win.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. That was interesting. So, did you eat some blue chocolate before performing that piece? Before the show?
Yeah. I mean, just invisibly ate it. Yeah. Why else do you think the story was so bizarre?
What's blue chocolate? What's the brand name for blue chocolate?
Any chocolate turns blue if you leave it long enough.
Really?
No.
You actually had me forward for a second.
You're really using the fool because on a previous podcast, I convinced you that Brendan was short for Brendanson, and there's this awkward pause where you believe it, and me and the other contestant know it's fake, and we just hold you for suspense for a second, and then go, no.
Remember that? Okay. Brilliant. So we'll move on to another question. I've got an idea for another round for this show, which I've never tried before. But seeing as Millie's in the room, she's actually rekindled my. Basically, a while ago, I created this game at university, and it's called the Lego Cage. And basically, I give you an impossible scenario where you're in a Lego cage, but there's like little gaps between the bricks, so you can see out of it. And basically, the pieces are glued together, so you're trapped in this cage, and you've got a giant polar bear called Hamish who's watching over you, and you've got 5 objects with you in the cage, which I give you, and you need to break out of the cage in a logical manner using these things in a minute. So if Millie's willing, I might get you on the camera, and we'll do a Lego Cage challenge live, but we'll see. I might leave it for next week. Anyway, cool. So this is an interesting one. This is one we had last week, but I think this one's it's more music geared, but might be able to twist it for obviously for film and other things. So what is your general view on piracy?
Well, this is partially influenced by the fact I am working for free. I do pirate TV shows, because otherwise I'd have to stick to legitimate broadcast stuff on iPlayer, which is fine. We won't for the weekend. Obviously, as a creative, I'd love to get paid for stuff, but I'm aware. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and one particularly does say at the end, if you'd like to contribute like £1 a month, and I can't contribute £1. So as much as I'd love to say yes, pay creatives, I think piracy is unavoidable because people can't pay or don't want to. Now the internet gives you everything for free.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one, isn't it? I mean, for me, I try my best to pay for things. Really, but it's a matter of personal choice and circumstance, and yeah, it's really hard, especially when the internet kind of it's just like, here's everything you've ever wanted, go watch it now. But yeah, it's an interesting one. Right, how about this one? How now, brown cow?
Whichever way you've not tried it before. I mean, this show thrives on experimentation, so do it a different way, brown cow.
Yeah. There we go. Okay, so brown cow, if you're watching, Brendan said, try it a different way. Okay. Way, man, way. Cool. So, we're talking about experimentation. So, the last challenge is a challenge that's left over from last week's. And so, I want you to perform the next story standing on your head. So, obviously, you'll be on the sofa, so you'll be standing up on the sofa while performing your story. So, I'll hold the microphone to your mouth, but you'll be upside down. Are you alright with that? Yeah, I'm sure you won't. And if you start to wobble, Millie's here to help. So, you ready? You ready? Cool. Right. Prepare yourself, Mr. Way. While Brendan prepares himself, I'm going to talk a little bit about my website. Huzzah! So, today, which is Monday, yes, Monday the 6th of October, I am launching my brand new website, which is scottfreemanmusic.com. And so basically you go onto this website, you can get everything you want. You can get I blog up there, I put music, new music, links to all my stuff, and basically there you can sign up to my mailing list. Each month I send out a newsletter, a anonymous newsletter. It's a little bit about how I'm doing, like telling some crazy stories that have happened, and I also give one free track download for a week for whoever is on my mailing list, and people who are outside of it don't get that free track, and it's taken down a week later. And yeah, it's really cool. So scottfreemanmusic.com, and there's so much stuff I've been putting up there. I've got a page called My Journey, which is basically my start from starting music to where I am now. It's quite detailed, and in between are SoundCloud links to tracks from all my old bands, and so you can it's almost like you don't just read the story, you get the oral story as well. You get to listen to the story by listening to songs. So I think it's a little bit different. So yes, scottfreemanmusic.com. Check it out. Brendan, while you're down there, is there anything you want to plug?
Yes, for all my podcasts, my stories, and where I'm gigging, go to facebook.com/doingthingsthe
Cool, brilliant. So I'm not really stood on your head. You're not really on your head right now. Not yet. Are you about to get on your head?
Yes.
Okay, Brendan is about to get on his head. So, cool. So you obviously need to announce the title and do everything there. So, cool. So I hand it over to you, Brendan.
Is that by my mouth? Can you hear me?
I'm just tilting the camera ever so slightly so we can see.
Good. If people shouldn't miss this. I've always wondered what the dead space at the top of the frame would be used for. Okay. This is the testicle poem. I said it like a robot. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 1. Check 'em in the shower. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 2. Use your fingers and thumbs. Don't be all fingers and thumbs. Ha! Wordplay. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 3. It's fine if one's big. my throat just drooped into my face. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 4. Don't worry about the bit at the back. That's where you get your baby fertilizer. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 5. Look for lumps as big as rice or peas, or rice and peas. Some people are messy. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Step 6. Feel people might be slightly distracted from the message. Step 6. Go to the doctor if something has changed. Don't go if, like, your favourite character on EastEnders has died. That's the wrong sort of change. Check your testicles, test your checkicles. Seriously, or else I have to do the poem again.
Way! Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. How did that feel?
Agreement.
So, yeah, that was really cool. That was really cool. I think it wasn't distracting from the point. I think it was emphasising the point because your checkicles were at eye level. So, yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. So, will you be performing that way at the next spoken word?
Not in my head. I was only going to do that as a one-off because I did it in a workshop, and some people thought it was genuinely funny. Because somebody genuinely asked, "How do you check your testicles?" And I know, thanks to my job, how to check your testicles. So I was just saying it, and they thought it was hilarious. I wrote it up as a poem, did it once, thought this is actually a really good performance piece. Like, this is actually the first piece that is written purely for performance. All my other stories have just been, stories, write down, you read them. This is actually a piece that I've written to perform specifically.
You say that though, but when we used to go to Starbucks and you'd write something and read it out, I would be laughing my head off. So I think your actual performance of them there was pretty good, and so I'd say they're written to be read, but I'd say there's definitely a performative angle to it. Yeah, so I was just gonna. I usually ask my guests kind of because a lot of people are performing original compositions on the show, so. Kind of, what's your writing process like? How did you start writing, and how do you go about writing now?
I don't think anyone remembers how they started writing. I mean,
You might have a vague idea though. I mean, recent years then.
well, I started creating stories by dictating to my mum Mr. Men stories, which I would then illustrate. The writing's got better, the illustrations haven't. I picked it up in uni because our lecturer Callum Kerr did a story for a year each day, and so we thought we can do that, but between us. And so I started writing each week, and then we did Starbucks sessions over the summer, and you'd give me 11 titles, I'd give you 11 titles, we'd start writing. As for how I write, I'll get an eye, because I'm a comedian and do wordplay, I can sort of think around the subject and think of maybe a punchline, but sometimes I genuinely do start and I have no clue where it's going. Those are usually the more conversational pieces, because I know if one character says, "I'm trying," the other can say, "I'm to try harder," and then I'll just see where it goes and then eventually work to a punchline.
Brilliant. And so, where do you see your writing going in the next couple of years? Are there things you want to try? Like, do you want to write a novel? I mean, like, what are some of the kind of the ideas that you have for the next season, if there's any coming up?
I'd like to answer that in the medium of styrophone.
Cool.
Agreement.
That doesn't really tell us. Okay. Really, is there anything that you'd like to tackle writing wise? Because you do a lot of flash fiction, a lot of comedy pieces within that, and some dramatic pieces, of course, as well. Is there anything new you'd like to tackle? Would you want to do a graphic novel, for example? Does anything like that interest you?
I'd certainly like to get more jokes on the radio and sketches. The BBC's got a good show, Newsjack, which is topical material, which is why I started the podcast as well, as to make sure I was keeping writing, because they have an open slot and you can submit sketches and jokes each week, and the show's back. And last series, I got my first joke on the BBC.
Hey, that's brilliant, man. I remember that show. I do, yeah. I do, because I listened through that whole show to hear the joke, and there were so many jokes I wasn't sure which one it was, and then I remember going on Facebook afterwards, and you had lots of people on the feed, and you were like, "My joke was that one." I was like, "Oh yeah," and then I listened back to it again to find it again to listen to it. Go, "Oh, it's Brendan's one."
Well, to be fair, I didn't know which joke it was either. You submit up to 3 sketches and 5 one-liners, and they just tell you in the email you've got something on. So I was listening for the entire show, and it came like the last 10 minutes. And I didn't know what was happening either.
That's cool, man. That's cool. So, yeah, we're coming around to the end of this week's basement session. Yeah, but it's been really fun. Thank you, Brandon, for coming and watching. So this plugs.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. What am I saying? Thank you for taking part, and thank you to Millie for overseeing us. Millie, you don't want to stick your face in for a second and say no. Okay. Next time, Millie's going to get into kayaking at some point, and we're going to do a kayaking special of the basement session, and I'm going to get you to do the Lego cage challenge while kayaking. Wow, it's getting really in-jokey. Anyway, so brilliant. So thank you for coming performing. So do you have anything like event-wise coming up that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, sure. I've already booked my Christmas party. I don't know where I'm working, but I know on the 4th of December, Bedroom Bar Shoreditch, I'm doing a spot at Rhymes of Orange, a really rowdy spoken word night. It's great. They've got a limerick competition.
A limerick competition? Do you write a lot of limericks?
No, but they do a good system. They give you a name of someone in the audience, and they give you a random sentence prompt.
Okay. That's cool. That's really cool. And your Facebook page is
Online. It's doing things the Brendan way. You can find plugs to my podcast, the topical show we talked about, my stories, which we mentioned, and yeah, occasionally where I gig.
As Brendan said, that's www.facebook.com/doing things the Brendan way. From there you can check out all Brendan's stuff. I highly recommend that you do. Even if you've like, spoken word is not something I really knew a lot about before university. And there's lots of different places in Winchester that did it and just really got into it. So if this is your first time experiencing spoken word, I highly suggest you check it out, because Brendan is one of the it's very humble, very kind of modest guy, but he's a fantastic writer, and is one of the upcoming writers. And check him out before he's big. And so yeah, so facebook.com/doing things the Brendan way. Brendan, you're going to perform as your last piece of the session now. So what's the title of this piece?
Scott, I wrote it for you on the train.
Okay, brilliant, cool. So yeah, I'm going to leave it to you to perform your last piece, and I'll exit the frame, otherwise it'll feel like a very bizarre serenade. So.
Before I finish, hi Dad, I know you're watching. Don't know why I stuck the tongue out. It's not a sexy thing to say hi to your dad. Scott, I've got a confession. I've watched every basement session. Don't think for a sec I'm messing. I really have listened to them all. Scott, don't think me a stalker. I saw every night at the Walker. We didn't need to drink or talk. No, I was just happy to stare. Scott, I follow you around town. Scott, I know what gets you down. Scott, your hair is lovely brown. Would it be okay if I touch it? Scott, I'm on your show now. Scott, I'm never gonna go now. Scott, we'll have fun and how. What are we having for dinner? I know whatever it is, it'll be delicious. Come here, babe. I'm not leaving. I love this show. I love you.
On that very bizarre note, thank you very much for watching. Brent, that was almost smoke on the water. Anyway, thank you for watching. Next week, next Monday, I'll be here, hopefully with Mr. Tim Vane, and we're going to be doing The Apocalypse. The Love Rapture, that's what it's called, and we're going to be doing an improvised song in an hour, and we're going to do it in as many different styles as you suggest, going from one style to the next, and Brendan will be locked up by then. So see you next week. Bye bye.